Hi, I am River Lightbearer, your friendly neighborhood non-binary compassionate catalyst, here to talk to you today about ethics. Now, a little bit of disclaimer to begin with. This is my ethical code. This is how I operate in my business, River Evolutions. This is what I recommend to people who ask me advice about how to conduct their spiritually based business. And it's what I teach my students who come to me to learn channeling and energy healing. So, you might disagree with some of what I say in this video, and that is totally fine. My primary consideration when I form my code of ethics and when I teach others is do no harm. That's what I base everything on. So if I consider that something is harmful, I'm not going to do it, and I am going to call it out as something I consider harmful. I'm not going to call out people, I'm going to call out behavior, because some people don't agree with me that something is harmful, and some people don't realize that what they're doing could cause harm. So if you disagree with something that I say in this video and you want to leave a comment about it, feel free, but please be respectful. If you're not respectful, I won't leave your comment there, because my video, I get to decide. And I apologize if that sounds a little bit belligerent. There are trolls on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, you probably know that. So, ethics. I consider ethics to be a code or course of actions that one puts into place in order to ensure that their actions, their practice, doesn't cause harm. In channeling, and honestly in readings, card readings, psychic readings, any of it, there are some practices that can be harmful or that are inappropriate. So when you're channeling, you are relaying, or you're in trance and letting your guide speak through you. So you're passing along what your guide is saying. That might be, again, through relay, where you're the one actually talking. It might be you're in trance and your guide speaks through you. You might type what they're saying to you. There are different ways to channel, but all of them have the same basic ethical considerations. And the primary among that is don't do it without permission. Your guides will not interfere with your free will. Your guides won't force you to channel them. They won't knock your consciousness out of your body so they can take over and talk. That's not how guides behave. Guides operate based on our free will being paramount. And if you are, if you walk up to a total stranger or even someone you know and say, I have a channeled message for you, listen to this, and then you tell them the message, you're violating their free will, because you're not giving them the opportunity to say whether or not they want to hear the message. That's unethical. It is not okay to force a channeled message on other people. Now, I post daily channeled messages on Facebook. And some people would say, oh, but you're violating people's free will because you're putting it up there and not asking their permission. If you're following me on Facebook, if you follow my business page, if you follow my personal account, you know that I post these daily messages. And you can choose to unfollow me, or you can choose to just skip over the message and not read it. You do have free will. You don't have free will about whether I post the messages, because that's where my free will kicks in. I choose to post the messages, but you can choose whether or not you read them. So I'm not violating anybody's free will by having them there. But if I randomly messaged somebody out of the blue and said, oh, my guide told me something that I have to tell you, and then put the message right out there for them to read, that's violating their free will, because then it's an individual interaction, and I'm not giving them the time to say whether or not they are willing to hear or read the message. So if you're a channel, a reader, a medium, an anything, ask consent. It's not hard to do. In the example I just gave, first of all, my guides are very, very unlikely to give me a message that is intended for another individual, because they consider that my guides consider that would be violating the other person's free will. But in the event that they did, rather than just, oh, my guides told me to tell you blah, I would message them, if it's somebody that I have a connection with, and say, so my guide told me something that I think would be good for you to know. Do you want to hear it? That opens the way for them to say, sure, tell me, or no thanks, don't want to hear it. Either way, I'm not violating their free will. I am not behaving unethically. But if I just blurt it out at them without giving them a chance to accept or deny, that's unethical. I consider it unethical to ask my guides for information about other people, unless, and this is me, and this is something I kind of go back and forth on, but if I consider it to be a matter of their personal safety, I will ask. Like, my husband was very ill at one point, and I asked my guides, is my husband going to go to the hospital? Is he going to figure out what's going on? That actually is not an okay question for me to ask, because it's not about me. But it affects me because it's my husband, and so my guide was willing to answer. My husband's fine, by the way, fortunately. But in general, it's not cool for me or anybody else to ask questions about somebody who isn't there to give their okay to the question being asked. It is okay to ask about a situation that you are involved in with another person. For example, a more ethical way for me to have asked about my husband would have been, how can I help? How can I support my husband's health? For example. But I've known people who are readers or channels, and there was a TV show about a medium who would just like randomly walk up to people and say, hey, I got to tell you this. And it's like, hey, no you don't, because you don't have permission. In the case of the TV show, maybe they got permission off camera, I don't know. I mean, it was a TV show, it was edited, who knows what they actually did. But consider free will when you are performing these services. Consider whether you're doing it in a way that is beneficial or harmful. If I tell somebody, I do, let's say I do a channeling session for somebody and they're not happy with what they've heard. If I say to them, oh, well, you just don't want to hear that because you're not ready for it, that's unethical. I don't know why they don't want to hear it. I'm a channel, not a mind reader. And even if I did know, it's still not my place to judge them for not wanting to hear it. It's definitely not my place to tell them whether they're ready or not, or to act superior to them. And yet I see practitioners doing that kind of thing all the time. That's not being of service. that's shaming somebody because you don't like how they've reacted. It's not my place to tell people how to take the channeling that I do for them. If they don't like what they hear, that's valid. If they're angry about it, that's valid. As long as they're not like name calling and ranting and threatening me, because that's not cool. But however they feel about it is valid, and it's not my place to tell them they can't feel that way. It's not my place to tell them why they're feeling that way or to minimize or invalidate them. That kind of behavior is highly unethical, and yet I see it all the time from spiritually based coaches and practitioners. And that's not being of service, that's being of harm. So if you are somebody who performs one of these services, any type of spiritually based service, any type of service, to be honest, consider how you can do it in a non-harmful way. Consider how you can do it in a way that does not interfere with the other person's free will. And consider how you would want it done if you were on the receiving end. If you are treating clients and other people in a way that you wouldn't tolerate being treated, why are you doing it to them? If you are saying things that you know can be harmful to people, or if you are saying things in a way that negates or invalidates them, maybe consider a different way of saying it, or don't say it at all. And if you are acting in a way that either violates somebody's free will or doesn't allow them to express their free will, please stop and reconsider how you can do it differently. I try to abide by those ethics in my practice. Sometimes I screw up because I'm human. Humans screw up. But I try to be extremely mindful, and I listen if one of my clients says to me, I really felt like you weren't listening to me. I felt like that was a violation of my free will. That thing you said was harmful to me. I listen, I validate, I apologize. Because I am always learning. Because you never reach a point of being 100% master of anything you practice. There's always something to learn, and ethics is one of those things. Being a channel doesn't mean I know better than other people. Having any of these skills does not make you better. It just makes you different. It means that you have skills that other people don't. So that's my thoughts on that. Again, if you have an opinion on this, feel free to leave a comment below. And as long as your comment is respectful, I will leave it there even if I disagree with you or you disagree with me. Because I'm not about just like cutting people off for disagreeing. That would be unethical too, as far as I'm concerned. The only comments I delete are ones that are blatantly disrespectful, threatening, bullying types of things. Those I will delete. I do these videos every other week, usually, except for the times that I forget to record them. Generally, I do these videos every other week, so I will be talking a lot more going forward about channeling, about how I do channeling. I will be doing demonstrations of channeling because that's becoming more of the focus of River Evolutions. But I talk about other stuff too. I talk about trauma and how it affects people's ability to access services like this. I talk about gender. I introduced myself as your friendly neighborhood non-binary compassionate catalyst. So I talk about gender sometimes. If you're interested in seeing what I talk about, please subscribe to the channel. I would love to have more subscribers. And that is where I'm going to end this video. But thank you for tuning in, and I will be back in a couple of weeks to talk about something else. Take care.